a little sus when it's all in the same area. It's all people who are out there looking for gold, and it's all and like heads go missing. That's not typical of an animal attack.
Yeah, and fire doesn't cut off heads.
No. Welcome everybody to Unraveling the Unexplained. My name is Kat. I am a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. This is my brother John, longtime fan of the creepy and the paranormal.
Hello, folks.
He has picked out a video for me to check out and for us to react to. I don't know what it is, but we're about to find out together.
The area known as the Headless Valley is a region of the Nahanni National Park Reserve in the Northwest Territories, Canada. Known for its spectacular scenery that includes canyons, waterfalls, hot springs, and caves, the valley has another, more sinister claim to fame. Legends and stories surround this valley. Legends about lost gold, mysterious native tribes, and, of course, headless corpses.
Okay, so full disclosure, I have seen other videos about this, and
You're familiar with
I am
them.
already familiar with this case. So just full disclosure, this is not my first time hearing about it. Although I haven't seen this, but let's jump. Super interesting case. So
It's an interesting place.
Let's jump into it. Yeah.
Officially, Nahanni National Park was established in 1976 and inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1978. Located in the Northwest Territories of Canada and labeled as one of the last truly unexplored places in the world, the Nahanni National Park Reserve is known for having a stunning natural beauty as well as a rich cultural history. Located approximately 500 kilometers west of Yellowknife, the park is an undisturbed natural area, but the centerpiece of the park is the South Nahanni River. The river itself also has deep canyons, huge waterfalls, and spectacular karst terrain, which means areas of land that are made up of.
This is a little bit unrelated, but kind of related.
Yeah.
I've been watching a bunch of other videos. I watch videos about stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But I was watching a series of videos about missing and unfortunate deaths that happen in the national parks.
Yeah.
And they were pointing out that a lot of them are actually like foreign tourists and stuff that don't, they get lost, or they're not understanding just how big or wild the area is. And I was thinking about this. Maybe we should stop calling them parks.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a misnomer. It doesn't quite give because parks suggest kind of a curated experience.
Yes.
Nice, pleasant little trails and fountains, and you take your kids or your dog for a walk there. There are certain places, national parks, that are just wilderness with a couple of trails and maybe a ranger station.
Right, and there can be nothing for miles, and no cell service, and it should be like a wilderness preserve or something, like National Wilderness Preserve or something like that, because I think parks is, like you said, it sounds curated. It's a misleading word.
It makes a person feel safer than maybe they should at the prospect of, oh, let's go wandering off trail.
Yeah, because I went to Yellowstone National Park. You were there, you came with me, and we drove up and in, and they have to give the spiel to everybody, like the whole pamphlet going in is, this is not a park. The animals are not pets. The cliffs are real. There's no guardrails. The animals are wild.
And even with that warning, we saw somebody that one day trying to go up to a buffalo.
Yeah. It's people. I think the word park is a little bit misleading, and I just had that thought, is like, we should really rename this something else. Anyway, unrelated but kind of related, right? This is a very wild area. It's hardly a park.
Take nature seriously, folks. She don't mess around.
For real.
Limestone. It also has cave systems and hot springs. The name Nahanni comes from the indigenous people living in the area, the Dene. Despite being established in the 1970s, the Dene have used these lands for thousands of years, with the first human occupation of the area estimated to have occurred some 9,000 to 10,000 years ago. The first Europeans in the area were fur traders who arrived in the 1700s. More explorers would soon come into the region with Alexander Mackenzie's exploration of the Mackenzie River, and of course the building of trading posts at Fort Simpson and Fort Laird. During the 19th century, most Dene families would settle into more permanent communities, which were often very close to these trading posts. As I mentioned, this area is known as one of the last truly unexplored places in the world. It is very remote, and the best routes into the Nahanni are via air, water, or a long overland journey from an abandoned village known as Tungsten. This remoteness has led Nahanni Valley to remain largely untouched over the centuries, if you don't count the indigenous people who call the area home. The wilderness in the area is at best challenging and at worst fatal. Even if you manage to navigate the landscape, you still have the animals to contend with. The area is home to many diverse animal species, such as grizzly bears and timber wolves. But there are legends of another danger that may be lurking in the valley. The Dene speak of another tribe that lived deep in the valley, called the Naha, who were a warlike tribe living in the high mountains, who would descend into the lowlands to raid and kill. Stories of the Naha and possible other dangers would be mostly ignored when the Klondike gold rush would hit the country. This led many prospectors to head out into the remote Canadian wilderness with dreams of finding gold. Most would return empty-handed, that is, if they returned at all. While the entirety of Nahanni Valley is surrounded by mystery, the area that is the most famous is known as the Valley of the Headless Men. This area is known as the 200-mile Gorge, and it's this area that's become infamous due to the gruesome deaths and disappearances that's happened there. Possibly the most well-known tale of the Headless Valley is about the McLeod brothers. Willie and Frank McLeod traveled from Edmonton, Alberta to the Nahanni Range in 1904. The reports of gold in the area proved far too tempting. The brothers only had primitive gear with them when they reached an area called Gold Creek. But unlike many of the people who came to the valley in search of gold, the McLeod brothers were actually successful, and they returned to their home with gold in hand. Still, the allure of this gold was very tempting, and they wanted more, so they began planning for a second expedition into the Nahanni Range. This time they would bring another person with them, a Scottish engineer with the surname Weir. The three men would head out for this second expedition in 1905. They never returned. Nothing was heard from the brothers, and no one knew what could have possibly happened to them. In fact, it would be their brother, Charlie McLeod, who uncovered what had happened to them. In 1908, he would lead a search in the park, and he would find two skeletons in their camp on the river's edge in a vast valley. The scene was disturbing enough with just finding two skeletons, but one skeleton had his arm outstretched towards his gun, as if he was trying to defend himself in his last moments. Blankets were thrown across the other man as if he had suddenly leapt from his bed. The most disturbing part of this scene was that both skeletons were missing their heads, and this discovery of the McLeod brothers would give this valley its new name, Dead Man's Valley. The third man, though, the Scottish engineer, has never been found. From that point on, more and more people would go missing in the valley. Another prospector, a man named Martin Jorgensen, would also set off into the valley on a quest for gold. He sent letters back home claiming that he had been successful, that he had indeed found gold in the valley. Suddenly the letters would stop, and no one would hear from him again. But then, in 1917, the cabin where Jorgensen lived was found burned to the ground, with the remains of his body among the ashes. Like the McLeod brothers previously, Jorgensen's body was missing its head. This discovery, along with the stories of what happened to the McLeod brothers, would give rise to rumors that there were headhunters in the Nahanni Valley. But interestingly enough, it also gave rise to rumors that the Nahanni hides a valley of gold, alongside dangers, similar to legends of El Dorado. These rumors of a mysterious valley within the Nahanni, coupled with the fact that the McLeod brothers had reportedly been very successful in finding gold, led many to search for a mine nicknamed the Lost McLeod Mine. Many have journeyed into the valley to search for this mine. Most never make it back. At least 20 people have died searching for this mine. The rumors of something attacking and ending the lives of the people venturing into the valley would only increase when more bodies were discovered. In 1927, the body of a man named the Yukon Fisher was found on the banks of Bennett Creek, which is very close to the place where the bodies of the McLeod brothers had been found years prior. The man known as the Yukon Fisher had been dubbed an outlaw and had been sought by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police for several years before his body was found. In 1931, the body of a man named Phil Powers would be discovered in the ashes of what was once his cabin, very similar to Martin Jorgensen. Then in 1936, prospectors Joe Mulholland and Bill Eppier would disappear. Many searches for these two men would be conducted for several years, but they were never found. The only thing discovered was their cabin, which had mysteriously burned to the ground. An unnamed miner from Ontario would also venture into the valley in search of gold.
And not that fires can't start from
completely
other reasons. Like, they absolutely can.
I mean, yeah, wooden cabins. Maybe somebody's smoking. Someone's not doing a very good job cooking safely. Who knows? Fire can get out of control. Things do burn down. But you do start to get a little sus when it's all in the same area. It's all people who are out there looking for gold, and it's all and like heads go
missing. That's not typical of an animal attack.
Yeah, and fire doesn't cut off heads.
No, so there's
something.
And
else.
Animals don't burn down cabins.
I mean, an animal attack, maybe somebody panics during an animal attack and knocks over something that would cause a fire.
Right. And, you're dealing at a time, we didn't exactly have forensic investigators. They weren't out there with the fire team looking at exactly what happened or anything. They just know the cabin burned down and people are missing their heads. And it's completely understandable that people would get the idea that there is someone out there that doesn't want you in their valley. And frankly, there may well be someone out there, a group of people out there that doesn't want you in their valley.
Yeah, I mean, you have a remote region like that. There's entire possibility there would be an indigenous group of people that have just lived out there forever. I mean, there are pockets like that around in all sorts of countries. Africa, South America. I think there's one island out in like the Indian Ocean or whatever that has a complete indigenous population on it that's never messed around with modern humanity. So it's like, why not up here in like far north, never been touched Canadian wilderness? Just a group of people that has not really interacted with the modern world and clearly doesn't want to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll watch some more of it and see what other evidence and stuff presents itself in the video, but, thus far, I think it's perfectly plausible that there's, a group of people that live out there who are like, how about you get out of our valley? Not interested in outsiders.
Yeah.
So this is apparently the fuck around and find out tribe.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you could get the hint after a while, so.
His body would later be found in his sleeping bag, without his head. All of these deaths are unsettling on their own, as well as the fact that cabins seem to mysteriously burn to the ground. Finding a body means that we do know what happened to them. Sort of. But there are so many people that we don't know what happened to them. I've already mentioned too, there's also another prospector named Angus Hall, who also ventured into the Nahanni Valley in 1928. He ventured deeper into the valley ahead of his party, disappeared, and has never been seen. Another well-known story from the Nahanni Valley involves a woman named Annie Laferte, who went missing in the Nahanni in 1926. She was in the valley with her hunting party near Flat River. It's believed that at some point she got lost in the wilderness, which led to her disappearing. Many years later, a native man called Big Charlie would claim that he had seen a woman in the valley. He said that he spotted a woman who was climbing a hill completely naked, and she seemed to have completely lost her mind. All we know is whether this sighting is of Annie or not, it's clear that she has become another victim of the inhospitable Nahanni Valley. As I've mentioned previously, there are many legends of this valley. It is rich in lore and tales of mythical beings and or places. Here's a few of those. The first one is actually one that is kind of my favorite, if I'm honest. It relates to the hot sulfur springs found in the area. These springs, in combination with the cooler Arctic air, creates thick and mysterious mists that often covers the entire valley, which creates a very eerie, almost otherworldly ambience. An ambience that has led to tales of there being a tropical valley somewhere hidden within the Nahanni Valley. Scientists have been discovering numerous remains of prehistoric animals, such as mammoths and prehistoric bear dogs, and this has led to more legends and tales of this tropical valley. Tales that say that there is this hidden valley that has animals such as the mammoth living within the most remote parts of the Nahanni. And many of these legends claim that these ancient predators, such as the bear dog, still roam the valley and may be responsible for many of the
Bear dog sounds
I have
awesome.
never heard of a bear dog, but it does sound cool.
Now I need to look up like pictures and like images of bear dogs.
Oh,
like,
prehistoric mammals have some wild creatures among them.
we should start naming our sports teams after prehistoric animals. The bear dogs, that sounds awesome. Like the regular animals are kind of getting tired. Wouldn't it be cool to have like the mammoths or the bear dogs or the saber-toothed cats? Like,
I'm sure there's got to be a sports team or two out there that's named that. I mean,
I know nothing about sports teams, but I think it would be cool. Like the bear dogs sounds pretty awesome. But I don't think that bear dogs bite off entire heads. Like most animals.
I mean, they could. A bear dog sounds like something that could bite off an entire head, but it doesn't sound like that's like their preferred method of. Like animals generally don't like have the specific thing of biting off a head, and that's a repeatable thing where you would have multiple people who are missing their head.
You know, animals like to eat the soft bits. They're not usually carrying off heads.
That's more of a human thing.
Yeah. So.
Deaths and disappearances. Let's continue with the theme of some kind of hidden valley. Due to the fact that many parts of the valley still remain unexplored, there are also tales that the valley holds an entrance to a subterranean world, which is tied into the Hollow Earth theory. The Hollow Earth theory was first suggested in the late 17th century. This idea suggested that the Earth was hollow and had openings at the north and the south poles. And if you were to move through these entrances, you would find yourself in this beautiful landscape where mysterious peoples resided, unseen by everyone on the surface. This theory has evolved over the years and has also been connected to conspiracy theories of reptilian humanoids that are said to live deep within the Earth. From a scientific perspective, the Hollow Earth theory is largely dismissed. The idea that there is a subterranean land has been part of mythologies all over the world since ancient times. So while the theory was proposed and suggested in the 70s,
I don't know about a subterranean land, like magic.
Like actual, like Hollow
Like
Earth.
magic dinosaur land. But I think it is possible, especially in places where, you know, historically the climate was really inhospitable during like the last ice ages and stuff, that there was portions of humanity or people that decided, that dug out and made their home. We have precedent in other areas of the world that it's completely possible to dig out and create cave societies or underground dwellings.
Yeah,
and
like
things.
the Earth doesn't have to be hollow for there to be extensive cavern systems where various people and or creatures could exist.
Yeah, and there is precedent for that in other places in the world. When there was inhospitable conditions on the surface, people began digging and building out themselves basically a giant underground ant farm that was insulated and more hospitable for living conditions. So I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
17th century, the idea that there is some hidden land deeper in the earth is way older than that. Then you have the ideas of entrances to hell that are said to exist all over the world, with Huska Castle probably being the most famous. Going back to the Nahanni Valley, the idea...
We did do an episode on Hoska Castle. If you guys are interested, you can check that out on the channel. And then Gateway to Hell, is we've covered that one before previously.
The idea here is that somewhere hidden deep within this unexplored valley, there is an entrance to a hidden world, either subterranean or hidden by fog that envelops the valley. And perhaps all the people who have gone missing accidentally found their way into these hidden worlds. This is a theory that is sometimes also mentioned if you look into the missing 411 phenomena. There is another legend that speaks of a creature called the Wahila, a large wolf-like creature that is said to inhabit Alaska and the Northwest Territories. The creature has a wide head and long, pure white fur, and is much larger and much more heavily built than a normal wolf. Supposedly it is strong enough to bring down a bear, but it's said to prefer easier prey, such as juvenile, old, or injured animals, or possibly even humans. The name Wahila was given to the creature by cryptozoologist Ivan T. Sanderson. The native legends describe this creature as an evil spirit with supernatural powers that kills people by tearing off their heads. Some people have theorized that this creature, the Wahila, could possibly be an ancient predator, such as the bear dog. There are also tales of a being called the Nukluk, which is a Bigfoot/Neanderthal-like creature that reportedly resides somewhere in the valley. In June 1964, a boy named Jerry would report seeing a strange creature near Fort Simpson at around 9 p.m. This creature reportedly had black hair on his head, upper body, and legs, with a long brown beard that reached its waist. It wore ankle-high boots, a moose skin loincloth, and carried a stone club in his hand. This report is the most well-known report of this supposed creature, but it is said that this being has been sighted for hundreds of years, from the Northwest Territories to Yukon to the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska, which is where you'll find towns like Portlock. The creature is said to have boot-like footprints and makes whistling calls. Of course, there's also tales of more supernatural beings, such as...
I do think it's possible that if you had, hundreds and hundreds of years of isolated selective breeding, that evolutionarily what eventually became humans in other parts of the world could still have a very different appearance.
I mean, could branch off, or you
exactly.
could have certain branches of ancient humanity, like Neanderthals or whatever, that just sort of didn't die out in that particular area.
Well, yeah, maybe they went underground and didn't die out, and
are still out there.
And are now, they're not creatures, they're very different looking from what like modern Homo sapiens ended up looking like eventually. Yeah. So I think that's entirely possible too.
As an evil spirit that is said to haunt the region. Native tales speak of a group of hunters who wandered into the valley in search of game. Only a few would return, and they would bring with them tales of a spirit whose otherworldly shrieks would echo throughout the canyons on cold and windy nights. Those are just a few of the creatures said to inhabit this region. Let's move away from the supernatural a bit and focus on the tales of the tribe called the Naha, which I mentioned before. According to the Dene, the Naha were a warlike tribe living in the high mountains. They would descend into the lowlands to raid Dene settlements surrounding the rivers. The Naha's presence can be felt in the name of the valley itself. The name Nahanni comes from the Dene name for the area, Naha Dehe, which means river of the land of the Naha people. After dealing with these attacks by the Naha for years, a group of Dene braves decided to fight back, and they traveled deep into Naha territory for a surprise ambush. They got close to one of the Naha camps and readied their weapons to attack. But when they rushed into the camp, they found nothing. Their enemies were nowhere to be found. and it appeared as if they had been gone for a while. With all the tales of the other dangers of the region, the Dene warriors then decided to head back to the lowlands. The Naha would never be seen again, and no trace of them has ever been found. They exist only in oral histories. But unlike the tales of the other creatures that can be found in the valley, the majority of sources that I could find do seem to believe that it is possible that there once was a tribe called the Naha who inhabited the valley. It seems strange for the Dene to name the entire region after the Naha if they never existed. That then leads to the question, what happened to them? Did they leave the valley? Did some kind of disease wipe them out? Or did they retreat deeper into the valley where they remain to this very day? The stories of unexplained phenomena, lost souls, and the beauty of this untamed landscape continues to captivate explorers and researchers alike. One question I was curious about when I was researching this video is what could remove the head from a body like that? And from researching, I found that in the case of birds, where the only thing that's missing is the head, the predator may be a raccoon, a hawk, or an owl. One example given was that raccoons have been known to pull a bird's head through the wires of an enclosure and then eat only the head, leaving a very unsettling image of a body without a head stuck in a fence. Those are birds, smaller animals. I couldn't find anything of a raccoon, hawk, or owl doing that to a human. It would take a bigger predator, as a human would be bigger prey. Some predators, such as the grizzly bear, which is one animal that calls the Nahanni Valley home, is known to attack the head or the neck of its prey. But a bear wouldn't eat just the head. They would eat much more than that and leave more of a mess. It is still very possible that predators, like wolves, bears, may be the reason for some of the disappearances. It still doesn't really explain the strangeness of the bodies, as they were mostly intact. Some of them were found in a burned down cabin, and one man was found mostly intact except for his head still in his sleeping bag. So animals may be the cause of some of the disappearances, but they may not be the cause of the bodies that had been found. So what could the cause actually be? Well, one other suggestion that I found was that feuding gold prospectors could have been the cause of some of the deaths. The idea of someone being willing to kill in the name of greed is very believable. It has happened before, and it will most likely happen again. Greed has been known to make people do the vilest of things.
It's a fair point.
I mean, it's not untrue.
Right.
But then why all the missing heads?
I don't know. I mean, I guess in order to create spooky, scary around the valley so that it's a deterrent for other people going out there. But
then when you have, if this would be a feuding prospector, I think the idea would be that they would be doing it to get gold for themselves, but then you don't really get a lot of success stories of people coming back with riches from the valley.
That was going to be my point, is if that was the case, then where's the guy who won? Where's the guy who, you know what I mean, who came back with all the gold and said, I don't know, but nothing ever attacked me, where's the success story? Even
if there were rival prospectors, then they went missing.
Right. Yeah, something's just not, I don't know. That doesn't quite track, yeah, but
So in the case of the McLeod brothers, how they were found and the fact that they had reportedly found a mine filled with gold, it's not that difficult to believe that someone decided to take this gold mine for themselves. Maybe that someone was the third man who went with them on the second trip. Or maybe it was someone who had followed them to this area and then attacked them. From what I could find when researching, the explanation that most seem to believe, or at the very least refuse to dismiss entirely, is the one offered by the Dene, that there is a dangerous tribe lurking somewhere in the valley, one that will attack anyone that ventures too deep into their territory. The wilderness always poses a lot of threats, supernatural or otherwise, And because of that, it makes perfect sense that a massive untamed area like the Nahanni Valley would be even more dangerous. What makes this area so mysterious is the questions surrounding it. The treacherous landscape and the wild animals pose a danger for anyone venturing into the area. But are they the only dangers? Is it possible that there is some other undocumented creature roaming in the area? Or is the threat more human, such as a mysterious tribe living deep into the wilderness? Regardless of what you believe, it does seem like something is lurking in the valley. Either it's completely...
I'm not sure I care for this word lurking. Like, they're not lurking, it's their home.
You can lurk in your home.
It's mostly that other people are lurking in their territory, right?
That's trespassing.
Exactly.
Lurking is just that you're kind of skulking around and hiding. You could do that in your home. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could do it.
Is that what you do? You're lurking
yes.
in the back. You're back there lurking.
I just lurk in the back rooms.
I don't know. I mean...
natural, such as a harsh wilderness or wild animals. Or it's something supernatural, such as a mysterious hidden valley or an ancient predator. Or the threat is very much human. Still dangerous, but human. One thing that remains certain, though, is that the Headless Valley will always, to some degree, hold a place in our collective imagination as a testament to the enduring mysteries of this blue planet we call home.
Perfect. I mean, I think it captures the imagination just from being beautiful and majestic.
It hits a lot of certain aspects of the human imagination, remote and mysterious, beauty of nature, supernatural tales of creatures or spirits, lost tribes,
gold,
hidden valley of riches, or a mysterious underworld. Like, it encapsulates a lot.
A lot. Okay. We will link this video and this channel in the description. Go check them out. Give them a like. Support the original creators. They appreciate it, and so do we. All right. Like...
Want to take a trip up there sometime. Might be a little extreme for our particular skill set. I mean,
right.
Yellowstone was about as
wild as we get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping to visit, like, Mount Shasta to do an episode.
That could be fun.
That would be fine. I think trekking out into the wilderness.
Well, yeah, they specifically make mention here, getting to the Nahanni Valley isn't exactly easy to do in the first place. There's no convenient roads or hotels or whatever.
No.
You gotta be a experienced outdoors person to...
I am an experienced astral traveler, but I'm not necessarily an experienced traveler to where I want to go hiking into the mountains.
Traveling somewhere with your actual body is completely
that's
different.
That's a little bit much. I think it does look beautiful, though. I think all of that is... I can't help but feel like it's completely possible that there is an isolated section of, humanity, regardless of how long ago they got isolated out there, and they don't want to play with you, so don't come digging for their gold. Yeah. I mean, feel like
that does actually sound like the most plausible explanation. It can be more than one thing.
Yeah.
It's like a place like that remote. Not only could you have a remote tribe of humanity, you could actually have like some small hidden valley of basically where animals from longer ago managed to survive, and maybe you got a couple of those running around that
I think certainly the landscape in the area and everything is treacherous enough on its own. Some of these people who went missing probably just didn't make it out there.
The wilderness has plenty of completely mundane ways to kill you.
Yeah, the only thing about that really sounded off and disturbing to me was the report of the woman running up a hill naked and having lost her mind. Like that. I mean, if you get story lost was like enough. That sort of that was a little bit disturbing. Do you know what I mean? But who knows if that one account is actually an actual account or somebody who was just
and even if it
saw
was
something they didn't understand.
I mean, there could be any number of explanations for that one. Mm-hmm. Somebody could have legitimately just gotten lost and then gradually kind of went a little cuckoo in the head.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's also possible if there's a remote group of humans out there in the valley that they may have, executed the men but thought it was worthwhile to take a woman.
Possibly. I mean, heck, the woman could have been one of the natives.
Right, exactly. So, with the account of the missing woman and then trying to correlate it to, I don't know. But I think it's entirely possible that, some of the people they may have taken just to see who they were and try to figure out what was going on. Get some questions answered. So
it does kind of make me wonder if the Nahanni Valley is a place where anybody's done, like in modern times, a more serious expedition to explore, like an actual large-scale kind of operation with a lot more backing, and not just like 2 or 3 people wandering up there, but like a full-on expedition crew with proper equipment. And
from what I understand of the situation, and not from this video but from watching other videos about it, is that the whole area was actually made a national reserve, and so they don't give out permits, or rarely give out permits to actually go in and do digging or research or any of that. It's like it's a protected area now, so it's,
and you can't get like some sort of scientific permission to say, hey, we're not going to damage anything or dig for anything, we just want to explore, map, and study.
Yeah, I'm not sure how difficult that would be to do, but they don't give out, I'm sure they don't give out permits to go in there willy-nilly, and I don't know how much real interest there is to go in there. I mean, it's possible that you could do that, but I'm not sure that it's...
If I was a nature scientist type person, I would find that valley fascinating and want to explore it, but that's just me, I guess.
No, I don't know. I mean, and maybe some people are like, I like my head better than I like scientific research. I don't know. Like, there seems to be a deterrent, so I don't know. We'd have to look into whether or not any actual scientific expeditions have been done into the valley, but at some point they did make it a whole protected area so that people can't just wander in there.
Yeah.
You have to actually like gain permits and do all of this stuff through the government to go into the area. So I do know that's for sure. It would. I mean, it would be interesting. I don't know how much you can tell about it just from Google Earth, you know what I mean? Just looking at images of what's down there and checking it out.
I mean, satellites are pretty impressive these days.
That's what I mean, and so I don't know how much of that is. You can take a look at it remotely through Google Earth. It might be interesting to look into. I don't know.
A lot of mountains and a lot of forest.
From my perspective, I think like if there is a group of people who are out there and want to be left alone, and let's just leave them alone. If that's how it is, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It sounds beautiful. I'd like to be able to go see, but
maybe with drone tours.
Drone tours. There you go. There's an idea.
You don't have to go in there. You just
you don't have
get
to go
a drone
in there.
to
We're
kind
just
of
gonna
fly around and check things out.
Yeah, we're gonna fly around in there with our drone. Explore it more like you would Mars. Get like a lander,
a rover.
Oh yeah, exactly, and go in there with if a robot loses its head, it's expensive, but at least it's not dead. You know what I mean? So there's a possibility in that. I just don't know how much funding versus how much interest there is, but it sounds like a cool idea. Anyway, that's what I got on that. Let us know in the comments if you have other theories or things you think are going on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will see you next time on Unraveling the Unexplained.
Have a good day, folks.